This is so wild to me. Do you guys see what her net worth is? Like, you had somebody do the unthinkable to your mom. You serve time, you take a plea deal, you get out in 10 years.
Babes, buckle up, because the Gypsy Rose Blanchard drama just flipped from inspirational fairy tale to messy eviction scandal, and the internet is eating it up like it's the season finale of a reality show. Imagine this. A woman who not even 2 years ago walked out of prison with millions of fans chanting her name, a reported $3 million net worth splashed in every headline, a lifetime deal, podcasts, interviews, sponsorships, and a redemption arc hotter than a Netflix docuseries. Now allegedly on the verge of eviction because she can't keep up with a $2,500 rent bill. Yes, $2,500. Not Beverly Hills mansion money. Not hidden Malibu compound money. We're talking basic suburban family home just outside New Orleans money, and sis allegedly can't swing it. The gag is, Gypsy has been selling the story of being a homeowner. To her massive TikTok following, she painted herself as a grown woman settled into a stable new life, independent, secure, and finally in control of her destiny. The vibe she gave off was, I survived tragedy, I paid my dues, and now I've built something of my own. Followers lapped it up, thinking she moved into her forever home, proof that she'd escaped the chaos of her nightmarish past. But according to new gossip, the truth is way less glamorous. That cute little 3-bedroom with the driveway and backyard? Yeah, it's rented. Not bought. Not owned. Not permanently hers, and if this tea is to be believed, not even consistently paid for. Now here's where it really gets messy. A TikTok creator by the name of Ethan, who claims insider connections to Gypsy's landlord, went live spilling all the dirt. According to him, Gypsy hasn't just missed one rent check, she's been late multiple times, enough that the landlord doesn't trust her anymore. We're not talking oops, forgot this month, kind of vibes. We're talking repeated late payments, warning letters piling up, and now a looming threat of eviction. The whole situation mimics what her critics are saying about her public image, promises that looked shiny on the outside but crumbled underneath the moment you scratched the surface. Let's not forget, Gypsy didn't just leave prison, she left prison as a freshly minted celebrity. This was supposed to be the ultimate redemption story. TikTok fell in love with her, she racked up millions of followers overnight, major outlets chased after her story, and brands lined up knowing her name recognition was viral gold. People honestly thought she was set for life. How could she not be? Lifetime specials drop checks. Social media sponsorships for someone with her following easily hit tens of thousands. Fan donations and streams? Those numbers don't lie. So how, in less than a year, did the woman sold to us as a multi-millionaire crash down to the point where paying rent is allegedly a struggle? That's the $1 million, or should we say now $2,500, question. The cruel irony, and the reason the internet is going savage right now, is that Gypsy's being accused of pulling the same moves she did when locked under her mother DD's control, playing roles, manipulating narratives, curating sympathy. Back then it was about illnesses and medical lies. Now haters are calling it financial cosplay, pretending to be a homeowner, pretending to be secure, pretending to be the star of a rom-com happy ending. Only instead of faking wheelchairs, the accusation now is that she faked stability while allegedly skating on thin ice with her bills. And let's be real, dragging your husband and infant daughter into this circus makes it even worse. Fans are furious that the family she fought for is now part of an alleged mess where stability is nowhere in sight. Adding fuel to the fire, Gypsy implied more than once on TikTok that her life was settled, her house was hers, her money was strong. That lie, if proven true, feels more corrosive to fans than the old crimes, because this time it wasn't about her survival, it was about tricking an audience that rooted for her to win. The discourse online is merciless. People are comparing screenshots of her home tour videos to Zillow rental listings, analyzing rent prices in New Orleans suburbs, and asking how you blow through $3 million in less than a year unless you never had $3 million in the first place. Comments are flying like, she scammed us for sympathy again, but this time it's about bills, not hospitals. Others are even harsher, she didn't waste her second chance, she burned it to the ground. And honestly, this whole saga isn't just about Gypsy anymore. It's exposing the fragility of these viral redemption arcs social media creates overnight. TikTok crowned her a heroine, locked in followers, brands, and stan accounts, but it never stopped to ask whether Gypsy actually had the tools, financial literacy, or guidance to handle sudden fame. Now, less than a year later, she's being turned into an example of how fast fame fades and how quickly influencer millions can vanish if the foundation was shaky to begin with. The picture isn't just messy, it's tragic, ironic, and low-key predictable. Right after her release, instead of grounding herself in smart choices, Gypsy went for glitz and impulse. She wasn't stacking her millions or carefully budgeting for family stability. No, she was bleaching her hair for $500 just for the experience, knowing full well she'd still end up sitting in another salon chair weeks later to correct it. That wasn't just about wanting a new look, it was a glimpse into how she treats money, something to burn, not something to build with. And it didn't stop with the hair. Oh no. Gypsy dove right into one cosmetic procedure after another, dental fixes, costly beauty treatments, and even rumored non-surgical enhancements, gestures meant to give her the glow-up persona she wanted TikTok to see. But behind the veneer? Every dollar sunk into those appointments was money sucked away from any kind of long-term plan. Yes, she showed up polished, filtered, and fitting the new life, new me #aesthetic. But the cost of that image was draining her accounts at a ruthless pace, and now we see how quickly the foundation crumbled. Fast forward to today, and rather than running a booked-out podcast schedule, rather than cashing steady checks from Lifetime or pitching her life to streaming giants, Gypsy is hustling in what feels like yard sale energy. She's selling random wardrobe pieces from past media appearances, Lifetime costumes, leftover baby items her daughter no longer needs, and even garage sale-level trinkets passed off as memorabilia for die-hard fans. On top of that, she's launched her own little art venture, showcasing paintings and drawings under the label Ablown BT, but let's just say the reviews haven't been kind. Fans describe the pieces as lackluster at best, overpriced scraps at worst, a desperate side hustle dressed up as an entrepreneurial brand. The tragedy here isn't the art itself, it's what it represents. A woman who once had 9 million followers aching to support her, squandering away her most valuable platform, is now trying to scratch out cash from hobbies and discarded possessions. And let's talk about that TikTok. Remember the Authentic Heart account that ballooned into viral relevance right after she walked free? 9 million loyal stans, all eager to follow her new chapter. That was truly her digital goldmine, her most powerful storehouse of value, but instead of scaling it, monetizing properly, and building it into a business with endless brand opportunities, she let it stagnate. To make it worse, she alienated chunks of her audience with defensive rants, inconsistent content, and a narrative that just didn't match the realities spilling out. What once symbolized her second chance now sits as a cautionary tale. She basically slammed the doors of her own online vault. And now, no book deal in the works, no guaranteed ongoing show on air, no polished brand projects keeping her afloat. It's just scattershot attempts at squeezing value from the past, yard sale moves that make it clear Gypsy's not looking ahead, she's clawing backwards. Layered into the financial wreckage is her marriage, something the internet once believed was her rock. Ken, her husband, was marketed as the solid partner who would stand by her, share her burdens, and offer the stability she lacked for so long. But girl, fans are not buying that narrative anymore. Online commentators are digging, speculating loudly that Ken doesn't have a stable job, if any steady employment at all, and is not pulling financial weight in this marriage. Which means that rent, utilities, groceries, baby supplies, medical needs, every dime that keeps them afloat is falling squarely on Gypsy's shoulders.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard can't pay her rent. It appears now that Gypsy Rose's show has ended and she is no longer getting a check from Lifetime. She's going broke.
I technically only have like $50 in my account, being like, oh my God, am I gonna have to, ask my dad for money this month?
I want to give my thoughts on why Gypsy Rose is selling all of her stuff, but I don't think it's just because she's broke. I also don't think it's just because of a snow habit. I think that the network may be going after her.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard can't pay her rent. It appears now that Gypsy Rose's show has ended and she is no longer getting a check from Lifetime. She's going broke. Now, I have a source who is telling me that Gypsy Rose has not yet paid her rent this month, and the landlord isn't happy. Through this source, close to the landlord, I hear that Gypsy Rose is living in a house right outside of New Orleans. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, $2,500 a month. However, she may need to consider downsizing because this isn't the first time Gypsy has been late on the rent. According to my source close to the landlord of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the landlord has warned her before about being late on the rent. However, today, the rent is still unpaid and she is not responding to her landlord about paying it. Now, all of this comes as Ken Urker apparently doesn't have a job still, and Gypsy Rose, however, was the primary breadwinner in the family because even if he did work as a busboy at a restaurant, that would not pay for the $2,500 a month rent for their 3-bedroom home. Is Gypsy Rose close to financial disaster now that she is no longer getting paid by Lifetime and has exhibited her poor money management skills? And do you think her landlord will have enough and evict her for continuously being late on the rent?
This is influencer culture at its rawest. It thrives on packaging struggle, pain, and dysfunction into consumable stories. Gypsy's story was just one of the biggest examples, sold like a glossy magazine cover that read from tragedy to triumph. Millions bought in, millions followed, millions hit like. But the questions nobody asked at the time: what comes next? How do you sustain this? Where's the stability behind the spectacle? Are the very questions haunting her now, because this digital machine, this algorithm-driven beast, doesn't care if you know how to pay a mortgage, save for your child, or build a business. It only rewards spectacle, and Gypsy gave it in spades. But the moment the show slows down, the audience shifts. We've seen this pattern everywhere. TikTok moms parading their children's most private meltdowns just to farm engagement. People staging their own emotional breakdowns on live stream because misery drives clicks faster than joy. Families turning dysfunction into a literal business plan, add chaos, film the tears, throw in a messy public fight, monetize, repeat. That's the model. That's the sickness. The algorithm doesn't reward stable homes, balanced lives, or financial prudence. It rewards drama, volatility, destruction. Clicks over care. Controversy over consistency. And Gypsy Rose just became the most high-profile casualty of this very cycle, because when your brand is built on pain, you don't get to stop producing it. You don't get to heal in private. To stay relevant, you must keep the trauma train running. And when audiences get tired of feeling bad for you, the sympathy dries up, the views taper off, and all that's left in the wreckage are rent notices, unpaid bills, backlash, and the ghosts of old performances that once earned pity but now only call forth criticism. Gypsy's tragedy is less about her alone, and more about the culture that gorged on her pain and then abandoned her when she could no longer keep delivering it in fresh packaging. So here we are, looking at the exhibits laid out in plain sight: reckless spending, bleaching hair for hundreds just to undo it, splurging on cosmetic vanity projects, auctioning off the scraps of past fame instead of building for the future, letting go of her only steady income stream in TikTok because she couldn't keep the act together, marrying men who cannot provide stability but rather deepen her chaos, presenting herself as a secure homeowner while allegedly dodging rent. And most sobering of all, raising a baby in the middle of a home weighed down with financial instability and the looming shadow of eviction. The verdict practically delivers itself. Gypsy Rose Blanchard squandered her second chance. She manipulated her audience into buying the illusion of safety and home ownership. She misused her sudden financial windfalls on vanity, indulgence, and clout-chasing short-term highs rather than securing real stability. She failed to create a lasting safe environment for herself and for her child. She is guilty, not of new crimes in a court of law, but of failing the redemption arc she was gifted, and of betraying the trust of an audience that desperately wanted her story to mean something more. And make no mistake, this courtroom doesn't need 12 jurors handpicked and sequestered. The jury here is the audience itself, millions of scrolling fingers on TikTok and Instagram, millions of comments left under gossip feeds and expose videos. It is you. You've seen the receipts, you've watched the fall in real time. And now the case hangs on a single question: is Gypsy Rose Blanchard unlucky, a flawed woman failed by a harsh world and unprepared for the pressures of instant fame? Or is she guilty of deception, of manipulation, of reckless choices recycled in new forms that once again placed her family in danger? In this online courtroom, it's the public that decides, and the jury is always watching. And that's the tea, besties. What's your verdict on Gypsy, unlucky, or manipulative? Drop it in the comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.